Hello, everyone. Welcome to a Wolfram Language Design Review. This is, I think, our very first review for the 14.2 cycle, and it's about PDE modeling. So, are we doing magnets this time?
Yes.
Okay.
So there are two types, the sort of permanent magnets and
I know, I've heard of that physics.
quasi-static.
Indeed. Okay, but first of all, this is a Neumann boundary condition.
This was an issue. Oh, how we started, or
Yeah. No,
okay.
we got it.
So this was an issue that got surfaced in a previous release where we need a symbolic representation for the boundary normal.
Yep.
That then gets computed later on inside the FEM code by solving a Poisson equation.
Okay, so the normal Neumann condition looks like what?
Well, yeah, it's
Neumann value, right?
yeah, that's how we do it here by Neumann
Okay,
value.
so hold on. So let me understand what that means. So if I say what's a typical use of Neumann value or Dirichlet value or something in an equation?
So you have a flux over a boundary, and the non-unit normal flux might be something. So there you have an electric current density value specified as Jx0, Jy0, but that needs to be normalized automatically to the boundary unit normal. And that's what we do there.
Okay,
so you can specify.
Let me understand first what Neumann condition, Neumann value on its own does, because I have to remind myself about
Yeah.
that.
So you can see here that
Okay, so that says Neumann value is 1.0, which means that there's a Dirichlet condition, which means that at this point, this is true. Okay,
Correct.
So what does Neumann value mean again?
So that means that at the predicate, we specify a specific Neumann value. If you open the details, the Neumann value has a very specific meaning in the finite element world. So
Well, I hope it's not finite elements. I hope it's PDEs.
Yeah, but it's the implementation that this plays along with.
But the important point is what it means in terms of the PDE.
Yeah. So if you look at the weak form, or if you look at the PDE typically gets solved by multiplying it with a test function, doing integration by parts, and that integration by parts yields an integral over parts of the boundary. And that integral over the boundary is replaced with a Neumann value.
it has the same effect as if you had a Neumann condition.
Correct.
But this is how you kind of have to do it with the weak formulation, the PDF.
I have a question for you guys. Sorry. The example repository exists, right?
Yes.
Can somebody put a link to it?
Yes, I can.
Sorry. Okay, what is the mathematical statement here? Dirichlet condition is something like some scalar field phi equals 0 on the boundary. The Neumann condition is the normal derivative of phi equals something on the boundary. Is that correct?
Kind of. Yeah.
What's the kind of?
if you look at the exact definition in the third node under the graphics, that's the exact definition of what it is.
Okay. Am I wrong in what I said? It's the constraint on the normal derivative of the scalar field at a particular point. Is that correct or is that not correct?
Not exactly. So it constrains a set of normal derivatives for various parts of the PDE on the Neumann. The important part is that this is a combination of several components that the Neumann value addresses. I'm
totally confused. Let's do some basic math. Roger, Devendra, somebody just remind me of the basic math here. Am I just wrong? I mean, am I misremembering what Neumann conditions are?
I think this is a Neumann value on that. What you're talking Neumann condition. Are they different? I mean, he's talking about a partially integrate form of the PDE, if I understand right. Is that correct, Oliver?
Yeah, that's correct.
So when you integrate by parts, you get a leftover term. That's not the Neumann condition itself. It's a Neumann value. It's what bakes in the Neumann condition.
Correct.
Well, okay, so this new Neumann boundary unit normal. Okay, look.
It gives you a way.
I can't review these things. I don't know.
No. I mean, but what's the net effect? Why do we need it? Okay, because you may want to express that flux where you're going to multiply something by the normal on the boundary to
Why is
express
this normal
flux.
Not in a list? Why is that point not on a list?
Because the whole thing is the normal. I mean, or why do you mean the arguments is?
Yeah, why are the arguments which are a vector? Are they not?
No, they're the independent variables, the sort of spatial variables.
I see. Okay, but now represents an outward pointing unit normal. But where is that unit normal? Let me look at the example.
I mean, it gets computed all over the surface.
Oh, I see. This is unit normal at the point x, y.
Yeah, exactly.
But why doesn't it say that? Okay, it needs to say that.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's completely incomprehensible. Outward pointing unit normal vector. Why does it say n? There's no n that I can see here. There's no reason to call it n there.
Okay.
Outward unit normal vector at the point x, y, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What is a solid? I don't know what solid has to do with it. We're not even dealing with solids when we're dealing with math.
But we can't define outward unless it's a solid, right? What is outward?
Okay, fine. Solid in the sense of not a liquid, but solid as in a
solid in the sense it's full dimensional. So in 2D, it's two-dimensional. In 3D, it's three-dimensional.
Oh, I see. On a filled region or something, I think we should say, because solid is not what you would usually call it in 2D.
We do actually, but
well, it's probably not a good idea because people won't understand it. It's something, but that it's something like a whale is not a fish type thing. It's just not going to be understandable.
We have solids in 4D too.
And people understand that better, honestly. Solid region because it's solid geometry.
Mm-hmm.
You don't call it solid geometry when you have a pentagon which has filled in interior, do you? So it's super confusing to call it solid in a filled thing in 2D solid. You should call it filled.
Okay.
I mean, that logic makes sense to you, right, Roger?
Yes.
Okay.
But solid is an accepted term for it as well.
I understand that. Just like everything can be represented in category theory. It's just not very useful to people unless they happen to speak that language. Okay. Outward pointing normal vector at the point x, y, blah, blah, blah.
On the boundary.
On the boundary of a filled region in 2D, 3D, dot, dot, dot. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So now, okay, now this makes sense.
You can see, by the way, here that it says a minus for the Neumann boundary unit.
Yeah, I
normal.
understand, because
That
that's
means-
inward pointing.
Exactly.
Okay, why does this have Neumann in its name? Isn't it a
Because-
boundary unit
Mhm.
normal?
But we can't, it's something that's specifically needed for FEM. We cannot support it in geometry more generally. It's here.
Why can't we support it in geometry?
That's probably a 2 development cycle development project to do
Okay,
that.
fine, I understand, but I'm just asking where we're going.
We
But it
need
would
it.
make sense.
We need it here because of you.
I got it. I got it. I
Okay.
understand we need it here. I'm trying to understand. If we could magically develop it, we would have a thing called region boundary unit normal. Is that
Something
correct?
like that.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Okay.
we can compute it approximately, explicitly for some point. Because we've needed that before, but this would take a whole other.
No, I get it. Look,
Okay.
I don't understand. I think the XY should be in a list. I don't get why it's not. Because I think as soon as you say at that point, you pick a point where you're going to apply this unit normal, you're going to have that point packaged up in a list to represent its coordinates, right?
Yep, I can change it.
Seems right. It doesn't seem right to me, because even in the description I was talking about at the top, you say at the point, and then you've got to put the brace XY, blah blah
Mhm.
blah.
I think you're right.
Okay.
I'll change it.
Okay. So let's now go back to this question about the future will be some kind of region boundary unit normal. Is that right?
Maybe,
That's what we think.
maybe. Okay.
Okay.
When we need it and when we can, develop
Okay,
it.
I understand. So what makes this boundary unit normal a Neumann one, as opposed to just a one that we
Nothing except that we want to restrict. This is where it's used. This is where it's needed. It's a defensive naming.
Okay, I understand. All right, fair enough. Okay, let's move on. Magnetostatics. That's exciting.
So this is more like normal kind of new modeling capabilities.
I understand. The world is by this point MKS and nothing else, right? Mu zero, all those kinds of things. All the rationalized CGS units, they're all gone with the dinosaurs. Is that correct?
Yeah.
You're absolutely sure of that?
No.
Okay. I would ask Michael Trott.
Good.
Who really follows these things. I mean, I have no idea.
I'll ask him.
In the physics world, I think the generation that knew rationalized CGS is gone. I can't speak to the engineering world, and particularly
I'll check with Michael. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we use the quantity system, so whatever that provides is what we'll have
Yeah,
here.
unfortunately, electromagnetic units, as you may or may not know, right, have this problem that it really does, none of these constants are really real physical things.
Right.
They've got 4 pi's around, it's a mess.
Yeah. I'll speak with Michael about this and see what we can do. Yeah.
Okay. What does that mean? What's this pi over 2? That is this.
That is
fighting us,
exactly
isn't it?
what you, yeah.
That's not great. I mean, shouldn't the default use shouldn't the default use a quantity object there? Instead of, I don't think seeing pi over, I didn't even know there was a 2.5 million in there. I think seeing that is really bad. I think that should say epsilon 0, whatever, mu 0, whatever it is.
Okay. That can be changed.
I mean, if you say mu 0, does it stay as mu 0, or does it
Probably it would be converted, because right now we can't really deal with the units for this particular thing with the units in ND-solve.
I don't know what you're going to do about this. I mean, maybe you need to put in a special case where that it's really not acceptable to have the thing spray, numbers out. I mean, as somebody who's mu0 is a personal friend, so to speak, I would never recognize it in that form.
I'll see what I can do about it. Yeah.
I mean, maybe you just have to special case that unit or something.
In worst case, that's what I'll do. Yeah.
Okay, fine. All right. So this default one is some kind of unit magnetic flux line thing or what?
Yeah, so if you scroll up a bit in the notes, there is a section that specifies what default values we use. So there, just there where your mouse is. Oh, sorry, just a little below the list there. So there we have all default values that we use, and there is also the vacuum permeability. That's mu0.
Okay, fine. Okay. Obviously, magnetostatic needs to be a spelling word. You've probably dealt with that. Have you dealt with that?
Are you okay with magnetostatic as a single word? I've requested it so many times and nothing happened. But if you're okay with it, I'll push further.
I understand. What did they say?
Nothing. They don't reply.
What do you mean they don't reply?
Well, if I send this to T-Spelling, we want this added. Sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. In this case, it didn't happen.
Okay, so who's project managing here?
I am.
Okay,
I
so
am.
can you please make sure that you understand it, how that's supposed to work?
Right.
I think
Yes.
DQA is managing the spelling dictionaries.
Mm-hmm.
So, and can you also find out why they're not responding to Oliver?
Sure. Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. I wish we didn't have to have such long, blurbs here. This is
Yeah.
going to cause us trouble.
I'll try to shorten it.
I mean, we really need to follow, we're trying to follow single sentence colon at the end.
I know.
So
But I need
let's
to
really
give
try that because,
some context
for
where this
example,
comes from.
yeah, I understand that. It's useful to have context, but you can probably shorten it. And, I have no idea what the implications of changing the format are. These things are now getting consumed by AIs as well as humans.
Yeah.
And, so I don't know, maybe the AIs don't care. They're so sloppy anyway. It doesn't really matter to them.
I mean, the rule we follow is that everywhere it's single sentence except in the applications where we allow.
Well, this is example section, right?
I know,
So,
it's basic.
It is, yeah. So
really, do we have to give a plot range here? Really, really, really? I don't understand this. You don't have to say image size tiny. You can just resize it here interactively. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're always allowed to do that. That's part of our rules.
Okay.
It doesn't have to. In other words, just Roger. I mean, I
Yes.
assume this is in your style guidelines. I mean, basically, the actual size on the page.
We didn't spend we didn't spend any time on the examples. We spent time.
Okay. All right. So. Okay, so the first elements here are
the dependent variable, the vector potential. Sorry,
no, B field, not the A field, the B field, right? The B field as in magnetic field, not the vector potential.
No. This is like a magnetostatic case. So this is a magnetic potential.
Hold on.
Look at the equation in the notes.
Yeah, go back up soon. Stop.
There.
Which one?
The first one is fine.
I don't have a clue what this is. Wait a minute. Magnetization is a B field, yes?
Yes.
The vector potential, the A field,
This is a scalar. The dependent variable is a scalar. We're looking at magnetic fields in the next notebook. So this is a scalar version.
What is
It doesn't.
I'm very confused.
Bring up the next one too, just for put them side by side.
What is the next one?
Magnetic PDE component as opposed to magnetostatic. Down. Magnetic PDE component. That one.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some very basic physics I don't know here. Tell me what is the quantity that you are looking at in magnetostatics here?
The magnetic potential.
How is that defined?
Sebastian?
Yeah, so in magnetostatic, we have the magnetic scalar potential, and it's defined by the magnetic field intensity equals the gradient of this scalar. It's really, really similar to an electrostatic cases.
Okay, and under what circumstances, wait a minute, if the thing, I don't understand it, if it has a curl, that doesn't work anymore, right? Or am I wrong? What's the condition?
This doesn't have a curl. The magnetic PD component has the curl. That's the equation you're talking about. That's what we're going to talk about in the magnetic PD component.
Okay.
If you scroll down in the magnetic PD component, you'll see the curl.
Okay. All right. But in this scenario here,
Yeah.
That the difference
can be
between
represented purely as the gradient of a scalar field.
Correct. We can make the simplification because in this case we don't consider any currents. But the magnetic PD component we consider currents,
okay.
and then things become more complicated. This is really a special case.
Okay, this is a special case for permanent magnets, basically.
Absolutely. That's it. That's
okay.
it.
All right.
Yeah.
I've actually never studied those too much. Okay. Formatting glitches here. Okay. That picture is kind of obscure. Very obscure. Okay.
Okay.
I am pretty confused about the units implications of having these. You got to ask Michael. This is really subtle and complicated.
I'll speak with Michael. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, my guess is there's another parameter that you need to have, which is some kind of rationalization, whatever it is, thing.
Okay. I'll review these pages again with Michael to see what he has to say about that specifically.
Okay. That's a horror, but I'm going to ignore that horror.
Well, you see now it's a system.
I do. But now, what is, so A here is the vector potential, is that correct?
Correct.
Right.
And why is this not just a B field?
So in order to make efficient computations, it's useful to convert this to this vector potential, because then we can reduce this type of equations to diffusion type equations, which we can efficiently solve.
But what I would like to type in is, okay, let me give you an example, which really has got to flow properly. Okay. Here's the magnetic field. How do I get it in? See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, I mean, this may
Okay.
not be the best form of it. There may be some other form that geomagnetic model data can generate, but in the end, it's kind of magnetic field in Teslas, right?
Correct.
That's, I don't
So
quite know why we're...
is a background magnetic field, right?
It
so
is. By the way, I don't know, and there's a thing for Felipe. I don't understand why it's in nanotesla rather than microtesla, given that it's so big. But that's just a minor
Okay.
point.
Yep.
Okay, so this is a field. Yes, it's a background field,
Right.
but it's also is a magnetic field, and
Yep.
it shouldn't be the case that it's like an epic journey to convert it to the form that we need to use it here.
Yeah. Agreed. And I'll look into that and see how we can do that.
Okay, but I mean, so the goal, I'm concerned about the vector potential isn't the thing you want to start from much of the time. You know, the thing you measure, okay, the other thing is on your phone, you have a magnetometer.
Yeah.
I can speculate, right?
Yeah.
We I've never finished this client value design that returns results from a magnetometer. But however one imagines those results get returned, it should be easy to plug them in here. But those
Okay.
results are going to be B fields. See what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, I mean, I kind of think you need a version of this that is a vector potential version and a magnetic field version.
Right.
Uh,
I'll look
okay.
into how to do that.
Okay, fine. Now, external current. Why? The external current, so this is being given as what amounts to a boundary condition, right? Is that correct?
The current?
No, this whole thing.
Yes, right. So this
Is
is
it,
equal
or
to
is-
some kind of a boundary condition then, yeah. Though, yeah, for these type equations, we can only specify a magnetic potential condition.
Then why are you giving all that stuff there with electric current?
So no, maybe I'm misunderstanding you. So those are the components of the PDE operator that you can specify.
Okay. But what is external current? So this thing is as a function of position. This is telling you, in this case, the A field, but it could be the B field.
Yeah.
Yes. What is external current? So external current is a J
Yeah.
that is at that point. The point, there's nothing external about it. At a particular XY coordinate, there is a J
Current.
value.
Right.
So there's nothing
So
external.
external in that sense means that this is a current that's not produced by the B field itself. It's a current that is coming from somewhere else, basically. Is that correct, Sebastian?
Yeah, it's a current that you use to excite your coil, for example. You apply 1 ampere to your coil. That we mean with external current. Obviously, there are currents generated inside the coil.
And using just the word current would be somewhat confusing because
No,
it
I
would
know. So
suggest
it's more like a source feed. It's source
yeah,
current.
yeah,
Yeah,
source
it's
current
a
maybe.
source
That
current.
might be we
Yes.
can change that if you
Source
prefer
is better.
that.
I think that makes more sense, probably.
Okay.
If this is a PDE component, you talk about the source term in the PDE.
Yes,
Okay.
very, very reasonable.
Okay. So I don't quite understand the use of the region symmetry thing. I mean, I know it's if I give that region symmetry and I give the value only for some part of, let's say it's circularly symmetric, for example, axisymmetric there, and I give it, what do? I give the actual value.
No,
for
that's not
certain
really
theta.
how it works. So the thing is that if you have symmetries, you can reduce the size of the geometry, and that's the boundary condition you'd specify at the symmetry. So it takes care of you to specify whatever boundary condition is needed at the symmetry boundary condition.
But so, in other words, in the axisymmetric case, if I just specified it at theta equals 0, it will automatically extend to all other theta values. Is that true?
There is only one theta value at that boundary.
I thought it was a cylinder or something. A cylinder has many theta values, but it's just like it doesn't matter which one you pick because they're all the same. Or am I confused?
So at the axis of symmetry, at r equals
Oh, not at the
0,
axis. Not at the axis. I'm talking about at the cylinder itself. That's distance r away from the axis. Where are you specifying the boundary
but there you
condition?
don't have a symmetry condition. The symmetry condition is only at r equals 0.
Okay. I don't quite understand how this works then. I mean, I thought it was a way to specify less parameters in the equation because the others are related by symmetry.
Sebastian, do you have any comment on this?
No, axisymmetric is just a way to model, for example, instead of solving the 3D model, you solve
I got it. I know what the
Yeah,
point is.
okay.
I'm trying to understand what the meaning of it really is.
It's a way to generate the correct boundary condition at the axis of symmetry.
Okay, but you have to specify less information when it is symmetric. Okay, you guys need to understand this. Roger, do you understand this?
Yeah, I thought there was that you specify like a quarter, you know.
No, what I was saying, which is you specify one member of the equivalence condition, of the equivalence set.
Exactly. So do you have an example there, Sebastian?
in the ref pages note.
Okay.
Okay, so you guys need to understand this, right? Is it the case, as Roger and I think, that when you specify that symmetry, you need to give only one member of the equivalence class, that is the current or the scalar potential at this, at theta equals 0 is blah, and then if it's axisymmetric at theta equals pi over 7, it's also blah. Right, that's my understanding. Roger, is that your understanding as well?
Yeah.
We can discuss it then, Roger.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Right. So let's take a look at the other pieces of this whole story. Okay. Okay, I don't understand this. Don't understand that at all. What is this? You say what this is?
We should, yeah, sure.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
It means there is no flux over that edge. There is no, yeah.
But why is it called a symmetry boundary?
If you want, Stephen, you can look at the illustration of magnetostatic. There I have a permanent magnet, and there you can see that there is a symmetry in the other one.
In the magnetostatic.
Okay.
There.
The
For example,
permanent.
instead of solving the whole domain, you can only simulate half
I got
of
it. I understand.
Yeah,
There's something wrong here. This isn't right. You've got two different ways of specifying symmetry. It's not clear how you're reducing the number of degrees of freedom. But I understand that this has, as a practical matter, you don't need to solve both sides. Roger, I suggest that you look at this, okay? And then we'll talk about it again.
I will.
Okay? This doesn't seem right to me.
I actually homed in on it when we did review, but I'll let's go back and let's see if we can make it very crisp.
Okay, how do I get to this monograph?
I don't know how to get to it during in production builds, but we don't have.
So I've asked that the documentation be installed, so you should be able to paste this into the browser, in the prototype browser, and you should see this. Magnetostatics for permanent magnets, and it should give you the monograph.
Yeah.
Huh.
Nice. Okay.
My God. Okay.
Oh, and by the way, talking about the monographs, so we are about 80% through having them DQA checked. So we'll work.
And remember, we got to get rid of this. This goes. This cannot be there. We've gone through this like 4 times.
We're really working on that, and that Neumann boundary
and get rid of
normal.
this nonsense here.
Yeah. So we've discussed that we just need to have new functions basically instead of those internal context functions. And the first one
Yeah,
is
you can either put them in the function repository, we've talked about this,
yeah.
or you can surface them properly, which is what I think you should
We're
do.
working on it.
Yeah, we've
Okay?
spent
At the
we
very
discussed-
least, put them in the function repository. There's no change to this documentation other than you don't have this dependency,
Yes.
right? And get rid of this. Just get rid of it. I don't know why it's still here. Why is it still here?
There is no equivalence to setting $history equal length, $history length to 0 for what I need. And we've discussed this before, and the people that had followed this discussion said there is no other way to do it.
Really? You were supposed to get back to me if that was what you heard.
You were on that.
Need to get rid of this,
you were in
right?
that discussion also. I'm assuming that you got all the information.
No, I did not get the information. You
Okay.
need to get rid of this. So make sure, okay. Why don't you send a separate piece of email and explain what was going on?
Yep, I'll do that.
Yeah, I want to see that gone. Which team do you think had things to say about this?
So there were Mark, Sopronio, Itai, and people like that were on that
No,
thread.
they were not the relevant people.
Okay.
Roger, have you looked into this?
No. There was you brought it up last time, and there was a long follow-up discussion, and I didn't follow it.
Okay. Well, it needs to go. In other words, if that's a problem that we have 35 years into our product, if we still can't deal with the memory usage that we're generating, there's something wrong.
I'll bring it up again. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Make sure. So as far as I'm concerned, I need to see that gone.
Okay.
If it's not going to be gone, you must explicitly get back to me and explain why.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
Why are these things look so terrible here?
Can we please
Brett,
make a note for Brett? Yeah, thank you.
Yep, I can do that.
I mean, that's some silliness to do with the right justification, whatever else here. The functionality looks beautiful. Oh, for God's sake, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. We'll yeah, got it.
When are we getting units in here? Because
So
the more you do in modeling,
or the
more
geometry
units become
part
important.
to accept units. So if
So, Roger, where are we at with that?
So it's not in 14.2, but so we now having regular meetings between like Charles and Oliver, so between the Fem team and geometry team.
Yeah.
And this is one, there's kind of a whole list of things to work on, and units being one of them. Our plan is to include units. If it's a composite object like a mesh object, it can have it there as an annotation.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
If it's region, if we can otherwise use region wrapper, because like disk itself, you know, where the heck are you going to put the units? But the region wrapper can have it. That was the intent from the beginning. We just haven't done it yet. So
well, a disk, you know, the radius could have units.
Yeah.
Well, but we need to get rid of them because the rest of the system is not prepared for that.
I understand that. So I think it should be the same thing that we're doing with like a tabular or something like that, where you have, you know, or a quantity array for that matter, where there's a little, you know, generic array thing inside.
Yeah. Well, okay. We our intent is to have region wrapper to be the more complete object, right?
I don't think that will ultimately be the right solution. I think ultimately we need to just get units in everywhere.
Sorry.
But sure what's happening with those dashes there. Okay, this is super confusing. Because in the usual statement of these things, it will be the divergence will be rho over epsilon 0, right? Oh no, the D field. How does this work? The D field is epsilon times the E field, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is this actually right with no epsilon 0 on the right-hand side?
Yeah, it does. That version of equation is right, but you can use divergence of E.
Yeah, okay, I get it. I get it. Come on, guys. Come on. Well, I mean, if I might say so, this is kind of silly because spin, there is an intrinsic magnetic moment to something like an electron that has nothing to do with this phenomenon. See what I'm saying?
We'll check it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the way the physics works. It's just, this is not heinous. This is like, elementary, typical, electrical engineering textbook without physics, right? So the point is, yeah, I mean, it's not horrifying, but it's just like, blah.
Yeah, I know that they use it as an analogy to use currents to describe the effects of the spins on orbiting electrons.
Well, the orbiting electron is a different thing. That's a little bit more legitimate. The spin is not legitimate. It has no known connection to any current whatsoever. I mean, a little bit more in a proton, but in an electron, so far as anybody knows, I think it's probably not correct, but so far as anybody knows, it has nothing to do with the current. Just like a spinning black hole has nothing, there's nothing intrinsically spinning about it. It makes things around it spin, but that's a different issue. Anyway, that's our physics moment. Lovely. I mean, I don't quite understand.
Yeah, so this is a HAV curve. So it is how you magnetize a material and
Yeah, I know. I mean, at some temperature below the Curie point.
yeah,
I mean, you've got a bunch of randomization here that is representing the analog of temperature, right? Presumably below the Curie point, because above the Curie point you can't magnetize it,
yeah.
right? So one thing that's a little bit confusing to me is, I mean, okay, let's get some reviews of this. I mean, this looks great in general. It's just let's avoid things which are, where
Do
I mean,
you
do you
have someone?
understand my point that this?
Yeah. Do you have somebody specific in mind that you want this to review?
There are probably some outside people who would be good people to review this.
I'll find someone. Yeah.
I would say that there are two different reviews that will be useful to have.
Mhm.
A physicist and an electrical engineer. Because they're going to be looking for different things and they're going to
Yeah.
expect different things. There's a chap, Bruno, we could point you to, who's been writing a book about particle accelerators with
Mhm.
our tech, who knows magnetostatics well. I know well. Whatever you need for the magnets in a particle accelerator,
Bruno
he knows
Artin
that
or
well.
Bruno
Yeah.
Artin?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's always asking people to review things, always tricky because you have to set it up in such a way that they don't think, oh yeah, they'll fix that later, or they must know that type thing. See what I'm saying? It's like, it's more like, the person who's used to grading, college papers or something. It's like, don't assume the person understands something. They might have made a goofy mistake. See what I'm saying? Not saying that you have. I'm just saying that's what we're
Yeah,
looking
I got
for.
it. Yeah.
The-
Sure.
It's a little bit, I mean, as I read through this, it's a little repetitive. Like it seems to have the same pictures over and over again. I don't know quite why that's happening. Why is that happening?
So sometimes we do an overview, give an introduction, and then we'll do the same thing again in more depth, for
Okay,
example.
but I've seen that picture 4 or 5 times scrolling through this document, haven't I?
I think you've seen it in one of the ref pages.
No, I've seen it in this document. One. Two. All right, you were right. I exaggerated.
So it's 2, and the other ones are in the ref pages.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, looks great. I mean,
Good.
what's this?
That is one of the functions we're working on to get into system context.
How many are there?
I'd say about 10, maybe.
That looks like an iffy function. I mean, they either should go in the system context.
This is
or
actually
they
the
should be-
function that we discussed in the ILD meeting. The function evaluate for the interpolation. That's kind of what it looks like now, but I'll change that.
Okay. Okay.
So that, just as an FYI, that discontinuous interpolation. So we have material boundaries like layered
Obviously.
cakes. Yeah. And we didn't have to tackle discontinuities in the spatial domain for interpolating functions before.
I understand. But now we do. And I mean, presumably that will be part of interpolation, right? I mean, presumably it should be similar to the way that we do exclusions in plotting, yes?
Yeah, so the way it works now is that we have regions that are aware of multiple domains, and we need a way to specify which, on a boundary between these two domains, which part that boundary should belong to.
Okay.
So it's related, but a bit different than interpolation. Of course, it does interpolation, but the setup needs additional information.
Did we already talk about this, or is this still a
No, we haven't. This is still in FEM context, I admit it, but this is something we would want in system context.
Okay. I don't completely yeah, go ahead.
Right. So there is a set of things that are sort of slowly evolving. So in this case, you have sort of piecewise constant material inside of a region.
Yep.
One could imagine too in the future that you have, graded material, something that varies continuously.
Yep.
Then you have effectively like a whole field over the region.
Yep.
We're not there yet, but we've anticipated that we're going to need it in some applications.
I mean, like for example, a refractive index or something of a material can vary continuously with position.
Yeah. Right. Correct. So we don't really have, we're using simpler ways of modeling it now. Over time, I think that's where we're going to end up. We've anticipated it, but you don't kind of want to develop it before you need it, because it's
indeed. I mean, because the variation with position of material properties, which is what we're talking about primarily.
Yeah,
is that
exactly. Yeah. And also a thing that came up when we do this, I'm sure you're aware, our electromagnetic material properties are not great, apparently.
Yeah. So typically in other PDE models, we can specify material goes to, I don't know, copper. But we can't really do that here because the entities for the materials don't really have enough magnetic.
Surprised. I mean, they must do for the common ones, but
we filed a bug report or something about that. So it's
there's
known.
a complicated thing because, like for example, there's a lot of dependency. Like for example, if the material is heated above the Curie point, it ain't going to ferromagnetize.
Right.
And so it's more like what we have with thermodynamic properties, where it's like, what's the density of water? Well, it depends on the pressure. It depends on the temperature. So I assume.
I think at some point we'll need a bit more of an elaborated material database.
Yeah, well, no doubt. But I mean, we have very elaborated stuff for thermodynamics. which you're using.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. But we don't have that for other material. Like, I mean, we
What
have
happens in your heat flow stuff? I mean, are you using thermodynamic data to the point where you could see kind of condensation happening in the, you've got something with steam?
We've got one example where we did that condensation, like dew condensers for water. That's what we
Okay.
simulated, and there we did see that.
But so that's a model. So thermodynamic data is a model for the
Yeah.
way that we could do more elaborate magnetic and so on material properties.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another point where the discontinuous interpolating function could come in handy, because then you can piece together various regions of this set of properties a material can have into one interpolating function.
But that's needed for implementation. But I don't understand why that's needed for, because I mean, a material, it is what it is. If it has a certain temperature, if it has a certain, magnetic, well, I mean, the magnetic field thing is complicated because there's a hysteresis of,
Right.
oh, it was magnetized at some point in the past type thing.
Yeah. So there is good reason why there is no material goes to copper possibility for magnetic stuff. Yeah.
Well, I think. Right. I mean, yeah, this is tricky. I'm gonna have to go soon, so let's solid mechanics.
So solid mechanics, we're still working on the plasticity. We have a working code, but it's a bit too slow, so we still want to work on it for another version to polish it up.
Okay.
And fluid
so I think I mentioned it last time, but with plasticity, we kind of need something that's a little bit like one event, where you need to know that you reach that
breaking point.
Well, I mean, where it goes plastic, where it goes like a fluid type thing.
Starts to flow.
Yeah. Right. And yeah.
What is that called? What is the plastic? There must be some stress level at which you get plastic deformation.
Yeah, the yield criterion.
Yield. Yeah, yield. Yeah, right.
Yield strength. Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we have yield strengths for lots of materials, right?
Yeah.
That's not a good sign. Why would we not have that?
Maybe you should, tensile yield strength or something like that. Maybe that would help. Yeah.
That's bad. Can you report that, please?
Yes, I can.
That's uninspiring. But at least it knows what it is. What would it?
I mean, we should have this for copper.
I would have thought we should have it for copper. I am confused.
No.
Well, it's good to drive the material data. It's really odd. It's good to drive that with actual use cases here. All right.
Can you give me a 1 or 2 sentence opinion on what would you think about having something like a dollar standard condition?
Like standard temperature and pressure.
Yeah, or specific sets. Yeah, I mean, maybe even like a dollar geolocation, like a dollar standard.
I think it's
condition.
a good idea.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's the right name for it, but I think.
I got it. Yeah, sure.
But I mean, you're talking 20 degrees centigrade.
Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. And that's something that you can set actually. Yeah. So.
Zero magnetic field probably, or maybe some small,
or whatever the standard condition for it. I mean, you could have like specific standard conditions, named standard conditions, and cook up your own if you wanted to, I guess. Right. And that could be used as a background information for material data.
Okay, but the standard conditions thing, I mean, the fact is some stuff we really do know based on geoposition. So for example, we know the acceleration due to gravity, we know we can compute, I mean, for a given time, we know the air pressure, for example. Right? So, I mean, there is the generic standard of, oh, it's, 1 atmosphere, 20 degrees centigrade. And there's the more specific standard, which is, you're in Denver, it's not exactly 1 atmosphere type thing.
I mean, you might want to do 2 different with.
You broke up. Yeah. Hello?
Want to do something that's reproducible in the lab and give me standard conditions for this and that setup.
No, I think the idea of standard conditions is a good idea. Very good idea.
Yeah.
I just, there's probably some thought to do with the geo aspect of it and so on. But yes. Okay, I think I should run off unless there's something very quick for me to look at here.
Okay, thanks.
Nope. Okay, good stuff. See you all soon.